Let's start now. So welcome again to Software Age's webinar on Enterprise Management System powered by ARIS. My name is Josèphe Blondaut. I'm working as a director in the ARIS product marketing, and there I'm leading all topics around enterprise management systems. I will be your host today and the moderator of today's session too. Just as a quick reminder for you, ARIS is the tool of choice to design, to analyze, to manage, and to optimize your business. ARIS is positioned as a leader for almost 20 years by leading analyst firms like Gartner, and we can count on 25 years of business process experience. ARIS is trusted by more than 10 million users and thousands of leading companies as a mission-critical management system. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Dominik Vanderhaeghen as our ARIS expert. He is a senior director in the ARIS product management, and he's responsible for some of our leading products there. So, for example, ARIS Connect and ARIS Cloud. He will take us through a very concrete optimization example, and he will do that, of course, live in ARIS. And of course, at the end, he will be also here to answer your questions live. And while I'm talking about the questions, at the end of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A session. So feel free to post your question in the Q&A window already during the webinar if you want, so that we can answer them directly at the end. In the meantime, if you have other questions, especially of technical nature, just use the chat window. We will have some colleagues in the background that can support you if you have any technical problems. So, and let's get started now. So today's webinar is the second in a series of 3 webinars on enterprise management system powered by ARIS. The webinars is a story, and they are building on each other, and they take you through the thrilling transformation of a fictive car company. So if you didn't visit our first webinar, the recording is available, but so that you can understand the story, I will just catch a little bit up. So in this first webinar, we learned on how to transform with an enterprise management system powered by ARIS. So we had this fictive company, UMG, having hard times as the competition was fierce on the market, and that put pressure on their price and services. So the company did think about a new strategy. It turns its strategic vision into reality with ARIS. So, and to see that in the demo too, we saw how the management started a deep transformation program of the business model. They basically described the strategic vision in ARIS, and they connected that to the operations. And when I say operation, of course, mean also processes. And then in the end, we saw that UMG had successfully adapted its business model and its operations, but some of the KPIs, such as the Net Promoter Score, were still a little bit disappointed. And that's where we start today. So we will look again at the efficiency of the processes, and we will see how the company will put everything in place to optimize its business, that is to say, to achieve operational excellence. So we will have the management with a special data-driven dashboard who will discover some problems, dysfunctions, and will try to understand and, of course, make everything possible to improve that. In the end, the transformation office will have to improve the processes and make every single employee contribute to the organization's success. And the question is will this work or not? And that's where we start today. Just because before we start and we go into the specific demo, I would like to show you a short customer statement that really underpins what we will detail in the system in our session today. So it's the statement from a big Danish bank, DANSKE Bank. They are really a heavy ARIS user. For them, ARIS is really mission critical and is spread to thousands and thousands of employees. And they are using ARIS really a long time to support their transformation and make sure that everyone really does the right thing and the right way. So basically, they are using ARIS as an enterprise management system. And I just want to pick up a very short statement from our reference video.
ARIS support our daily business by providing very good transparency across all the processes. So for an organization, we have modeled more than 3,000 processes, and it's very important for all employees and business owners, different roles, to understand and see, how everything is working as a one model, being able to know all the risk, all customers journeys, all end-to-ends, and being able to understand that and then transform into the daily work.
So that's it. So as you can see, we have many customers that are using ARIS as really their central source of truth for the business, and it gives them basically the keys to operational excellence, to best running processes, let's say. And and operational excellence is nothing more and nothing less than doing the right things and doing these right things the right way. So whether in your company you need to make your operation more efficient for the sake of customer satisfaction, for example, or whether you want to communicate the right ways of working to your stakeholders, or you want to continuously improve your operations, basically the solution is an enterprise management system powered by ARIS, because it will help you to support your teams and your users. You will do that in one standard tool that gives the company and everyone one consistent way, basically, of working at all levels in every single department. And this one consolidated ways of working are all available in one single repository, which is ARIS, and that's supporting continuous improvement and also, of course, based on this governance. So basically, how do you benefit? So I think already the simple fact that you have principles, that you have policies, that you have processes in this central source of truth will help an effective and efficient way of working, basically. And this will make the information easy to find, and you will achieve the end-to-end visibility for everyone within the company. And that's what we mean basically when we talk about operational excellence. As said, it's a review, and as said before, we saw in the first webinar of this series an example of an automotive company that really completely shifted its strategy. And it connected that, of course, to the operation. So not only the strategic part, but also the operational business and process part, basically. But still, in our example, we see that the excellent operations are missing, that the KPIs are not as good as they should be, and that's the focus today. So we want this company to be the happiest customers company in the world, and for that, they basically need operational excellence. And operational excellence, it goes one step beyond transformation. So transformation is about defining the things to do, the right things. So what is the right strategy for the company? But operational excellence is really about doing these right things the right way. So that means that you need to break it down into concrete activities, concrete processes, so that you can optimize the running business. While doing that, you will find out about a bottleneck in the process, about improvement areas in the organization. You will be able to govern these processes and make sure that everyone in the organization knows about the processes and do it the right way. And that's now the point where I would like to welcome again my colleague Dominik, who is taking over the demo part. So Dominik, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Josèphe, and also welcome from my side. So let's quickly share the screen. So, as Josèphe already stated, talking about an enterprise management systems means very much taking a holistic approach, taking an integrated and embedded approach, looking at transformation and how to achieve operational excellence. And actually, what I'm going to show you today is to step into the shoes of different people, of different roles in the organization who are typically involved when you set up an enterprise management system. Briefly, as an introduction, we're going to work as a manager in the manager role, for sure, taking care of all the stuff around organization, being in control, wanting to monitor actually transformation, and for sure finding out where we need actually to improve the company. But we're also deep diving a bit more into the details of how to make the change, how to get the change rolled out, how to get approvals, until we really reach everybody in the organization who's affected by change. So employees, workforce, actually, who is supposed to act according to changed, let's say, ways of working. And we're going to do the demo with different browsers. So we're going to start now with Mark Manager. And actually, Mark Manager is an employee in the United Motor Group, the UMG company that Josèphe already introduced. And actually, Mark Manager is responsible for two things. So at the one side, he's responsible for the outside view of the company. So actually, how customers experience the services and products of this United Motor Group. So he's in charge of the purchase journey. But at the same time, for sure, it's not only this outside-in view, it's also this inside-out view. So as Mark Manager, I'm also responsible for the order-to-cash processes, which are actually serving the internal processes and steps in order to deliver these cars to customers. So I now logged into the tool. I have a look at my management dashboard because I want to be clearly focused on KPIs. I want to find out what works well, but what does not work so well and needs further improvement. And actually what you see here on my dashboard quite quickly is, it's not as good as it could be. So Josèphe already mentioned, so we are really striving for having the happiest customers in the world. And how do we measure that? So we measure that for sure by the customer satisfaction, and more specifically by the Net Promoter Score, which is a typical KPI in order to find out, are my customers satisfied? And we're now just shifting a little back in history. We are in the year 2017, and we see our customer satisfaction measured by the Net Promoter Score is not as good as it should be. But why is that the case? Let's now have a look at the purchase journey and the details a bit more in detail. So let's change again to the management view of our purchase journey. So again, we're in our 2017 scenario. You see the Net Promoter Score has a value of 28, which is not as good as it should be according to our goals. And you see in this dashboard a lot of details. Actually, what we're doing here, we're measuring real processes by process mining and process discovery, and are calculating the Net Promoter Score out of this. So actually what you see here are a lot of historical process data, which gives us indication on processes which went good, so who followed the happy path, but maybe also processes that did not went so good and who led to a bad customer experience. So the Net Promoter Score, for those of you who are not so much familiar about it, actually is a value, or let's say some way to evaluate how satisfied your customers are. And actually customers can rate the company and can actually tell you as a company, are you going to recommend your products and services to other peers? And by doing this, there are different target groups which are relevant. There are so-called detractors, which actually are people with unsatisfied behavior. There are actually passive ratings. You see them here. Customers rating is 7 or 8. They are neutral. And then there are promoters who are really pushing you and who are very satisfied. And out of those ratings from customers, you actually get a calculation of this Net Promoter Score. And for sure, every company is striving, and for sure here, my example, UMG, striving for the happiest customers in the world. We want to have a lot of happy customers. So actually, why are not all those customers that happy? So I now need to find out and want to deep dive a bit into the facts and figures, actually what went wrong. And I'm going to look now at actually the detractors. So what happened with detractors? So you see here in my chart, I see that out of 26,700 processes which were executed in 2017, I have 36% of detractors. I also have some comments here below. These are real data points, real feedbacks given out of customer service. And let's now have a deeper look at the detractors. So actually, you already see the dashboard here is filtering, so that's nice. So I can see at a few data points as well. For instance, some customer said they fulfilled all my wishes. I'm really happy with my new car. Yeah, maybe he was not that happy because he gave a 1. But here there's another one actually with a score which is not so good. The purchase of my new car did not work fine. My car was finally delivered without the changes I made. Okay, there's an indication that something went wrong. But I don't want to boil the ocean myself. So I don't want to go through each and every feedback in order to find out about what was really now the root cause for this. And in order to find out the root cause for this, I'm going to work with the so-called root cause miner. So I now want to find out what led to those detractors. So let's now run the root cause miner and actually select here NPS respondent is detractor. And let's ask the system actually what was the reason, or why do we think that actually those people rated the services and the customer experience in such a wrong way. So let's have a look at the results. And here the system tells me that actually 70% of the processes that the system looked at actually had an order change. So maybe actually order change is an indication that I should have a deeper look at. So let's have a look at that. So I'm now filtering my dashboard. I have 2,245 processes which are affected actually by this. And let's now have a closer look at the actual processes, how they were executed in the past. So when you look now at the real processes, so this is not something which was designed by modeling. This is something which was measured in the actual applications, your ERP system, for instance, or your order transaction system. And we here clearly see that after a sales order has been created in just 0.8 days, actually customers tried to change their car configuration. Remember again, our scenario is the United Motor Group. We are a car manufacturer. We want to have a very satisfied customer base. And we now have actually the indication that changing the car configuration after the initial sales order might be something which is a bit difficult because it takes more than 2 months. This is not good. For sure, this destroys our whole net promoter score, our whole customer satisfaction. So I now, as market manager, have an indication that there's something which needs to be improved. But actually, I first want to store a bookmark here, because later on, I would like to share this finding with my colleagues who are going to further work on this. So I'm now going to add a bookmark here. So change order is an issue. I save this. I for sure make this available as some public bookmark so that my colleagues later on have access on that as well. And I'm now going to have a look actually at the real customer journey, or the customer journey, how it was designed and rolled out into the organization. So let's now look at the purchase journey, how it was designed as a customer journey. Let's zoom in a bit. So you see here, drive test car, that's fine. Select and configure the car, that's fine as well. And then receive car from UMG. So obviously, it's not foreseen that customers should change their configuration again. So obviously, this is something which is not part of the happy path, which for sure needs to have been exception. And we have to change that because our customers are not satisfied. So I would like to have now a team looking at those findings more in details and do all the necessary stuff in order to get this customer journey for the purchases actually improved. So let's now add a comment here. So please have a look at the customer journey, especially on changing orders, or better changing configuration again after orders. So actually, I would like to have my transformation team to have a look at that. So I'm closely working with another role that's in a second, we're going to step into the shoes. So we are working with TINA transformation. So let's mention TINA transformation here. And for sure, a lot of people have access to this customer journey, but not everybody should see all this communication around this improvement. So I really want to restrict this improvement communication to the Center of Excellence, and now actually post this and make it available to TINA transformation. So let's now change the role. So actually, let's now step into the shoes of TINA transformation. As I said before, or at the very beginning, talking about enterprise management systems is really looking at a holistic approach, how you actually design a company, how you establish a single source of truth, how you transform your organization, how you achieve operational excellence. And for sure, you have to do the changes. So TINA transformation is responsible as a part of the Center of Excellence of UMG to make sure that the necessary business processes are adapted, constantly improved as well. And she now received feedback from Mark Manager. So let's now have a look at TINA transformation. And TINA transformation either gets notified through her mails, or she gets notified through, for sure, the ARIS Connect in-tool notifications. So Mark Manager mentioned her here in the message, so I can click on that. The C, Mark told me, please have a look at the customer journey, especially on changing configuration again after order. So that's fine. Just have to imagine TINA transformation does not have all the necessary knowledge that I have as Mark Manager. So maybe TINA transformation needs to recap again what Mark has already explored. So for sure, she has also access here to this purchase journey management dashboard. And she also can, for sure, have a look at the bookmark that was recently created. So change order is an issue. And she directly gets into the findings and to the data points. And she now can have a look as well at the different comments here. So I had many problems with the car dealer, especially when I wanted to change the color of my car more. Okay, indication as well. Very long delivery times. So this customer complains about long lead times of the process. It took too long to get actually my product or the car delivered to me. And again, for sure, as a process designer and transformation architect as well, she's interested in the details. So again, she can have a look at the real process instances, how they have been executed in those cases where we found that there is an issue. And she again sees change car configuration is a real issue. So this is a real indication, and she now decides she wants to improve this purchase journey. And she for sure has to have a look as well again at this purchase journey. Let's maybe zoom in too. So she also sees the finding. So there's a step missing. So change order is not considered in this purchase journey. So let's change that now. So directly from this environment where I'm looking at the processes, looking at my dashboard, I'm now changing into the design environment, into the modeling, just with a click or browser-based, and can change quickly actually this purchase journey that I've just had a look at. And actually, I want to add a further step, a further customer journey step after select and configure the car. So let's add this here. So we're going to add now a further customer journey step here, which is called change order. So I can use this one already. So in the next step, so I have here the different customer touch points. So I want to add a customer touch point. So in this change order is, let's say, executed, or let's say has a customer touch point that we call the change configurator, because that's something that we would like to have in the future in order to make it easier for customers to change. So then in the next step, we have here actually the owner, which are our organizational units. So let's add now the local dealership here. So small typo, local dealership sales rep. So he's responsible for this customer journey step. And then for sure, I have a mapping from this outside in perspective into the inside out world. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I'm now mapping actually this change order step to the internal task or function, which is called the handle customer changes. Again, I have a typo. So handle customer changes. And finally, I also would like to add risk, because there's an important risk that I have to have a look at. And this risk is actually called order is changed too late. Let me quickly talk about this a second, because it's important to understand that if like a company like the UMG is delivering products and services to customers, customers are always looking at different journey steps. And this is basically how a customer perceives the products and services and the processes from an outside-in perspective. So as I said before, drive test car is such a customer journey step, select and configure the car is such a journey step, change order is such a journey step as well. But actually then there's the inside-out perspective, the business processes which are delivering in order to make this seamless customer experience available. So this is now a customer journey map. But this is not everything. So actually, in addition to the customer journey step, we also have to have a look at the further details. So we're going to save for sure this customer journey step as a first, let's say, action that we have to take. But now I also know that I have to change the internal processes which are delivering here. So let's now have a look at the order to cash process, which is actually important to deliver on this customer journey. So this order to cash process is for sure the internal way how we look at the way how we work with orders from customers. So you see there's a step, create and send quotation, create and send contract, create sales order, and then receive the car. So there's something missing here as well. And it's actually the step that we would like to handle the customer changes. So let's add that. So I can easily here either drag and drop or click and place one of those objects. And you see, I can easily drop that here on my connections. So, and there's an automatic alignment as well of my connections. And I now would like to add this handle customer changes step to this process. So let's save it. And now we have to make sure, because this is not yet available to the organization. And for sure, Mark, who triggered the change in the organization, he should have a look as well and should make an approval as well of my changes before this is being rolled out to the full organization, maybe 100,000 people who later on have access to this changed processes. So let's now actually ask Mark for an approval. So I've saved this, and I'm now going to request an approval, so which is some kind of a formal collaboration. And as a part of this approval step, I will ask, hi Mark, I have made the changes. Can you please approve? And I'm sending that now. Okay, very good. So fine so far from this side. So we can close that window again. And let's now step back into the shoes of Mark Manager. So quickly, just to recap what I did as Tina, after I received from Mark a notification that I have to improve something in my purchase journey, and I have to improve something for sure in the internal processes which deliver on this purchase journey for customers, I have made the changes. So I added my steps in my modeling environment for the customer journey map, and I did that as well for my BPMN model, and I asked Mark for approval. So let's now have a look at the environment from Mark. So let's get back to the start page, and he is here his task board. So when he logs in again, or either he looks at his emails, he gets a notification that there's a new request for approval. So this is the request that I just sent. So let's have a look at that. So I'm now trusting that Tina did a great job. So just adding this, yeah, please proceed. Great job and thank you. Very good. I'm also going to automatically post into the collaboration that there's a new version made available later on, because this is very important here as well. So approve. Very good. Let's now change again. So I'm at the moment Mark. Let's now change again the role to Tina. And let's have a look at the order to cash process that I've just approved as Mark. So and here it is, actually automatically the changes have been made available. So you see here, handle customer changes has been added to my process. So now for sure, the change has been made. The new standard has been created. The standard has been approved. So we have also applied some formal governance around this. For sure, all this change has been triggered by fact and figure-based decisions, which is also very important. But now we have the next huge step in our enterprise management system. We have to roll out this type of information, the new standard, the new to-be, to the full organization. We have to make sure that people are changing their way of working according to these new guidelines and new processes. So as a first step, as Tina transformation, I actually would like to comment here on this handle customer journey step. So team, please make sure that this change is considered in your daily way of working. So let's add that here. You also see that it's actually a comment which has been made especially to the step which just has been added to my business process here. And let's now add that as a comment to the collaboration. So now actually we have to change roles again. So we have to step into the shoes of those people who are affected. They are working in the order to cash process. They are doing this in the day-by-day work. And actually the role that we're going to look at is the so-called Willy workforce. So actually Willy either received an email notification or he's logging into the system again. And Willy has, again, a different way to access this enterprise management system. So especially for him, the system has been set up in a way so that it's very role-based, because Willy is not expected to have a lot of information around business processes or maybe looking at the full process architecture. He should really be focused on what's affecting him in his daily work. And when he logs into the system, you already see that actually he has a row-based filter active and that the order to cash process is automatically shown up there. So let's have a look at the order to cash process from the Willy perspective. And for sure, for people who are not process experts, not trained in business process modeling and business process maps, and who do not understand what a BPMN or an EPC means to them, actually for them, it needs to be very, very simple. So they just want to click step by step through a process and want to understand, what do I need to do in this step? What do I need to do in the next step? And he's actually now doing that for the order to cash process. So he's looking now at order to cash. So first step is create and send quotation. Okay. So create and send contract. Okay. Customer signed contract. And here is the handle customer changes. Okay, handle customer changes. And there's also a small explainer video, because we know actually that in order to make people adapt their way of working, you have to explain also in a very visual way what's expected in a certain step. So you can easily add multimedia content as well in those type of publication, and for instance show in screenshots and images or maybe in videos which are being linked, like here my example, what's expected to do here at a certain step. So maybe in short tutorial video, which actually is then being opened from the enterprise management system already, that really shows to the end users what's expected to be done there. So I now want to deep dive a bit. So this, the steps view that you see here is a really simplified view on the business process, how it's being rolled out to the organization, to the workforce. But maybe I'm a bit more interested in the details as well. So, and then I see here my BPMN model, how it has been published, how it has been designed. And there are also some further means like those mini fact sheets, which give me again some additional details that help me to understand what I need to do in a certain step. But finally, as I said at the very beginning, as a employee, as everybody who's not familiar with all the details of my process organization, I want to focus. And finally, I actually can use as well some focus feature, the so-called highlighting as well, which gives me again a row-based focus on what are my tasks. What is expected by me? I'm an internal sales representative, and what do I need to do in this process step? So that's enough from the Willy workforce perspective. So again, recapping here. So we made the change. We asked for approval. So this approval has been done by Mark Manager. And then we have rolled out this to the broad organization, to the broad audience, and everybody got access and has a way to find out actually what has changed in my daily way of working. Let's now step back into the shoes of Mark Manager again. And let's also do some time shift. You remember we actually started with 2017, where we had a bad net promoter score. So let's have a look at 2019. So now the net promoter score in the meantime has changed a lot, which is great. So it's a great achievement. And as I'm also responsible for order to cash and the changes that I triggered and that have been made by TINA transformation, I now want to get a bit more insights on the adoption of those changes. So I'm again navigating to my order to cash process and to my order to cash process adoption dashboard. And in this process adoption dashboard, I really see from a high level viewpoint, and again, let's have a look here, 2019, yeah. From a high level viewpoint, actually, where am I in my transformation journey? So as Josèphe said at the very beginning, we want to achieve operational excellence. Operational excellence means that a lot of people have to adopt their way of working. That's within change. So if you want to change and improve and enhance the organization, for instance, for the sake of further customer satisfaction, you have to change something. And for sure, if you roll it out to the organization, it's not enough that you have a good strategy. You definitely have to make sure that this strategy is being executed. So strategy to execution is key here. And what you see here on this dashboard is actually, again, based on fact and figures, which are measured by ARIS process mining and by process discovery. So actually what we do now, we measure the real behavior, what has been done now in 2019, and how are people actually executing the process in their daily business. And you can imagine at the one side, we have all the facts and figures on how processes are being executed based on ARIS process mining. On the other side, we have the standards which have been defined, the standards which have been rolled out to organization in the form of these BPMN models or the steps view, for instance, and we can calculate process adoption and the conformance rate. So and you see here, there's a huge achievement already. So adoption is with 81%, which is great. Actually, I also see my user satisfaction score, but for sure, there's always room for improvement. So there's still a lot to do in the future, but actually we see that all the necessary work we did, that the observations by Mark Manager and the change by TINA transformation, and also the adoption and execution by Willy Workforce already took their effect. With that, I would like hand over and end the demo, hand over again to Josèphe.
All right. Thanks, Dominik. Thanks very much. I mean, you're three persons in one. That's just thrilling.
Right.
So I think it was a really good presentation, and I just want to wrap it a little bit up, but I think you did most of that already. So I think we saw the main parts of this transformational process towards operational excellence. So we started with monitoring and analyzing the business processes. We had a view on the change orders, we had a view on the customer journey, and basically we identified some problems, some bad KPIs. That was this NPS score, Net Promoter Score, which was not satisfying, and that's where the team started to work basically on improving and refining the processes or the customer journey. So really taking into account the internal view, but also the external, the customer view. So we had a view at this sales order processing process, but also at the customer journey steps. And that's where it was improved. Once you've improved these processes, we had these approval workflows, these communication coming into place, so that we could really govern and manage the processes the right way. So we could make sure that these processes are allowed and now the new way to work. And in the end, we had a short view on basically on the enablement, the rollout, and basically also the adoption of the new processes, because the enterprise management system in ARIS really gave this company the keys to informing their stakeholders, their users, the workforce, and to make sure that's working. And in the end, also to check that people follow the strategy so that the strategy was executed. But I think that was really a perfect demo. I love it. Thank you. And of course, I mentioned that before. In that case, we created some kind of a fictive story to make it understandable and to make it short to demo for you. But of course, this story is very much inspired by our concrete customer story. So at the beginning, I talked about Danske Bank, and now I would like to take a short example of a German company or international company, basically, which is called Hermes Logistic. Yeah, so short intro on this. It was founded in 2006. From an employee perspective, they have more than 5,000 people, and they are basically a global full-service solution provider, and they are really in that area one of Europe's leading providers, a big company. They handle 60 million orders, and they have more than 300 million goods a year. So that's really a lot of processes. And to make it even more complicated, they have several locations, of course, and each of these locations had different processes at the beginning. And for some times, the company was really struggling with digitization and also harmonization of these processes within the company. And they say why they started an initiative based on ARIS to develop a company-wide process management concept so that they would be able to identify optimization potential and basically to support daily business. And how has the colleague from Hermes states, Dr. Heinrich, is that really that ARIS enabled Hermes to visualize processes, that's one, and establish a basis for comparison that allows to identify areas of potential improvement much faster. So to put it in a nutshell, the tool really simplified process analysis and allowed them to work much more efficiently. And I think that's basically the base, and that's what we really want you to understand what's an enterprise management system powered by ARIS really supports. Doing this, Hermes was able to increase the transparency. They had consistent company-wide processes. Yeah, they were able to fasten some of the key processes, like the quote process, which is in this industry a very important one, and they were able to standardize that so that they were much more faster, and basically the customer satisfaction was improved. So they have really overall positive experience with ARIS, and they still use it to support their processes. So that's one other example on enterprise management system powered by ARIS. If you want to see more customer reviews, you can really visit softwareag.com/EMS, and we have also other customer stories linked there. And as I mentioned before, we have a series. So the first one was the Transform webinar. Recording is available today. We had the Optimize webinar. So we saw really how the company, after a dramatic strategic shift, was able to drill down into the daily business, to optimize the business, and in the end to achieve operational excellence. So the processes, the challenges, all that were analyzed, what improved, change governed, and the communication towards workforce worked fine. And as I mentioned, there's a third webinar, and it's about the control part. So in the next webinar, my colleague Elke Bastian will take us through basically the next step of the story, which is control. That is to say, how the company can secure its license to operate. So we have we have a great strategy, we have good processes, but of course the company wants to be allowed and wants to continue to run like this. And I have a short spoiler for you. Yeah. So now that we have this business model which is up and running, and everyone should know how to work, we may want to check if the processes are really running the way that they should. So are people really using the processes like they should? Are the processes complying with risk and regulations? Are the risk under control? And all that will be part of the next webinar. So it's really be focusing on risk management and conformance changing. That will be the keywords of the next webinar, so that we can make sure that the company really has end-to-end visibility of the operation, and we will basically see if that works or not. And that's for the next webinar. The next webinar is, by the way, on October the 2nd. And now that basically leads me to the Q&A time and session. So I have a look in the Q&A window, and I can see in the Q&A window is quiet, but wait a minute. I can see in the chat that I have some questions there. So I think I will go through these questions from the chat, and if anyone has another question, then please feel free to post that into the question and answer window. Dominik, I see one question, which is, which products do I need to do basically what I saw today in your presentation?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So actually, you remember the slide that Josèphe has just shown to you. This was a journey through different views, different products. So actually, when we started as Mark Manager, this was very much based on dashboards, which are provided by ARIS Connect and ARIS Aware. And actually, the facts and figures which are being shown in those dashboards, they are coming from ARIS Process Mining. So our process mining solution, which is measuring and executing processes. So when I then jumped into the details for review of a process, for instance, this was based on ARIS Connect, and there, especially the viewing environment. As TINA transformation, I then did changes in the so-called Connect Designer. That's the design client for our ARIS Connect product. And the approval processes that I started were based on ARIS Process Governance. So these were actually the different components which are part of the enterprise management system.
All right, thank you, Dominik. I see a question in the Q&A. What kind of tools did you use in this presentation? So that's the same question. I think you just answered that. I have another one in the chat. Are the products that you mentioned before available in the cloud?
Mm-hmm. So actually, to explain a bit with cloud, so actually for ARIS, we have a public cloud offering that's actually shared environment, and we have a private cloud offering. And the products you've seen today, they are exactly in those scenarios available in this private cloud environments, which is clearly meant also for those use cases. So if you would like to set up an enterprise management system based on the cloud, then it's based on our ARIS Cloud Enterprise offering. So basically in this environment, yes. But the public cloud environment is more for customers with a, let's say, not a long time experience, not the need for all the capabilities of ARIS, starting their journey into process modeling and process mapping, and then extending further. Actually, for them, the first step of this enterprise management system with modeling, for instance, and with viewing, editing, this is also part of the public cloud.
Cool, thank you. So still in the chat, another question. We are a big company located in different locations. So how do we handle languages? I think there's 3 questions. How do we handle languages? How many users can I manage? And what about documents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a typical question in this scenario. So let's maybe start with the last question first, how to handle documents.
So for sure, establishing a management system with a single source of truth, with process descriptions, for instance, you always come to the point that you also would like to have, for instance, operating procedures being linked in those management systems, or policies and other guidelines. And this is something which also can be maintained and stored from within the enterprise management system. So there's the so-called document storage within ARIS, and in this document storage, you can store those documents, you can make permissions, you can have governance release cycle workflows around this. And this is also a typical scenario that we see in those enterprise management system scenarios. From the language viewpoint, it's also typical requirement. So we actually have a lot of different languages that we support. So there are user interface languages, quite a lot actually made available. So there's for sure in German and French and Japanese, so many, many more. And the content from ARIS, so where you describe your business processes, there is almost no limit in terms of process description, or let's say language maintenance. And what was the third one, part of this question? Help me again.
How many users can I manage?
Okay. Yeah. So actually, when you ask for users, it's typically what's the audience in terms of end users, viewers, which are accessing such a management system or dashboard. So actually, we have scenarios up to 100,000 users that access in a management system all those different documents. So as ARIS is, from a technical perspective, very ready for large enterprise scenarios and can scale up very good. Actually, there's almost no scenario that we cannot support.
Perfect, thank you. So I don't see any other content question. I have a more practical question. So I see that this presentation is recorded. Where will it be available for to download? Thanks for asking. That's for me the question. So this presentation, this webinar, like the first webinar, are both available on the softwareag.com page. So if you go to softwareag.com, you can find under Insights and Innovation a link to Enterprise Management System, or you just use at the end .com/EMS, EMS for Enterprise Management System, and on that page you really find everything. So I think that's it for the questions. Now. So thanks everyone for your attendance and your attention. Thank you very much, Dominik, for the thrilling demonstration and presentation. I really loved it. And yeah, the recording will be available soon on YouTube too and on the page. And we hope to see you on October the 2nd for the first and the last episode of our thrilling transformation demo. So thank you and speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.